2016 Lake Erie Committee meeting. It's a culmination of a lot of the work that's gone on with the different agencies in Lake Erie, so we're glad that you can be here to participate in sharing the information with you. To get started, I'd like to first acknowledge the LEC committee members. Down at the far left is Jim Francis from Michigan DNR, Don Einhaus from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Jeff Tyson, the Ohio DNR, Brian Locke from the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and Chuck Murray from the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. This year, the co-chairs are Jeff Tyson and Brian Locke. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, as is customary, we have a time for stakeholder input at the end of the meeting. We ask that you fill out one of the forms, which is located over by the bell that I just rang. We'd ask that you have those filled out and handed to one of the GLFC secretariats during the course of the meeting this afternoon, so we can have them compiled before we start the stakeholder comment period. And also, we are going to have a break. There will be a reception following the meeting at 5:30 in the Falls View room. Okay, without any further ado, let's get started. So as a co-chair, it's my responsibility to bring you up to speed on the activities of the Standing Technical Committee over the past year. The membership is there on the screen in front of you, so I won't take the time to go through it. But it's basically each agency has a representative that serves as a mediator between the Lake Erie Committee members and the technical groups and the task groups. Here are our charges for 2015 and 16. I'll go through them slowly. By the fact that we're here, we have fulfilled our first charge, and there's actually an agenda, so we can check that one off as being done. Charge 2, that is kind of a defunct group, and so they have not met in some years, and so we have no progress towards charge 2 to report on this year. The third charge that we're responsible for is overseeing the structured decision-making effort that's going on in Lake Erie with respect to person management, formerly referred to as the LEC group. We've coordinated some meetings over the past year, and I'll go through them here in a few moments, and then the final one will be to produce a walleye management plan. So with respect to the LEC process, this coming April will mark the 17th meeting of the LEC group. There's a meeting scheduled to take place on April 12th and 13th over in Buffalo, New York, to address some of the topics for the upcoming yellow perch management plan. Activity over the past year in June, there was a meeting where we discussed the results of the technical review panel that convened in the fall of 2014 and looked at specifically accounting for sexual dimorphism in the yellow perch populations and in the model and the management unit configurations. In November of 2015, we had a webinar where folks from the Quantitative Fisheries Center at Michigan State reported out on some of the models that they had been running, and this was a kind of a new approach by doing this over the webinar. It allowed people to stay where they were and just meet at the local agency offices for this update. And as I mentioned earlier, there's another meeting coming up in April of 2016. Now, with respect to producing a walleye management plan, as you know, one of the original walleye management plans was drafted in 2005, and as part of that, we were supposed to reevaluate every 10 years. And so we had a new iteration of the walleye management plan come out. It was a retrospective look at the past performance of the old management plan with respect to walleye in Lake Erie. The current plan went through a revision process which incorporated some of the feedback we got during the LEC process, the meeting with stakeholders and the modelers at the Quantitative Fisheries Center. And one of the iterations we went through was developing a management strategy evaluation. And we looked at different model revisions and exploitation policies, and then a way of measuring performance of the walleye management plan. It included triggers and timeframes for plan review so that we know when we need to review the current walleye plan in the future. It was accepted and adopted at the end of 2015, and the time frame that it covers is through 2015 to 2019. Other business, we have submitted a copy of the 2009 State of the Lake Report. We tend to like to do things a little bit late, so that project. That report has been submitted to the Fish Commission and is currently under review and in their hands. And we're awaiting beginning the 2014 report until we hear back that the format that we utilized was reasonable and a good path forward for the next lake report. The data deficient group met over the course of the last year. That is to address concerns raised by the MSC certification, Marine Stewardship Certification process, and specifically looking at some of the bycatch and some of the fisheries with respect to lake whitefish, white bass, channel catfish, and freshwater drum. And so this data deficient group is going to get started with looking at approaches forward. And another outcome of this previous year was that terms of reference were developed for the group. So the group knows how to proceed into the future. And so some of the assessment tools that are being explored for use in this data deficient group would include a data scorecard or data quality. We're going to work closely with the Cold Water Task Group on Charge 8 as it pertains to whitefish management in the lake, and then we'll be working closely with the University of Guelph and OCFA through this process, because this incorporates some stakeholders into this data deficient group as we move forward. And then we're also looking into some white bass population models that have been developed through the Ohio DNR. Okay, we'd like to acknowledge a great deal of gratitude and thanks to Mike Jones and the QFC up at Michigan State. The Yellow Perch Technical Review Panel, they met for a few days and looked at the model data and made recommendations for moving forward. And then, of course, the stakeholders who are involved in this process from around Lake Erie. And, of course, Dr. John Detmers and Roger Knight for the work that they do assisting us in our responsibilities. And the Yellow Perch and Walleye Task Groups, because they were called on numerous occasions throughout the course of the year for this process. So with that, I am over time. If there are any pressing questions, I'll entertain them briefly. If not, we'll move right on to the next talk.